Hi there, welcome, and thank you for being here. Today's story is personal, it's real, and it's one that may feel all too familiar if you've ever battled something invisible, something that stole your energy, your joy, and made you question everything. This is the story of a woman who lost her health, her sense of self, and the people she loved most, but somehow through the darkness found a way back. Losing everything, finding strength, my chronic illness journey. Let's begin. The crisp autumn air bit at my exposed cheeks as I stood there, a solitary figure amidst a sea of vibrant orange and gold leaves. The cemetery was eerily silent, save for the rustling of the wind through the ancient oak trees that stood sentinel over the hallowed ground. I clutched a wilting bouquet of Elara, their pristine white petals beginning to brown at the edges, mirroring the decay I felt within. Today marked the 5th anniversary of their passing, my parents, taken too soon by a cruel twist of fate, a virulent strain of influenza that swept through our small town like a wildfire. But today was also different. Today I wasn't just mourning their absence. I was confronting my own failing health, a body that seemed determined to betray me at every turn. My name is Elara, and for the past decade, I've been locked in a relentless battle with a mysterious illness that has baffled doctors and eroded my quality of life. It started subtly, a persistent fatigue that I initially dismissed as stress from my demanding job as a graphic designer. Then came the joint pain, a throbbing ache that settled deep in my bones, making even the simplest tasks feel like monumental efforts. The headaches followed, blinding migraines that would leave me incapacitated for days, forcing me to retreat into the darkness, seeking refuge from the relentless pounding in my skull. Initially, I attributed these symptoms to grief, a delayed reaction to the trauma of losing my parents. But as the months turned into years, and the symptoms intensified, I knew something more sinister was at play. I embarked on a grueling journey through the labyrinthine corridors of the medical system, consulting countless specialists, undergoing a battery of tests, each one more invasive and disheartening than the last. The results were always the same, inconclusive. I was told it was all in my head, that I was suffering from anxiety or depression, that I needed to relax and take better care of myself. Their words stung, a constant reminder that I was alone in this struggle, that no one understood the debilitating reality of my invisible illness. I felt like a fraud, a hypochondriac, constantly questioning my own sanity. Was I imagining it all? Was I simply weak, unable to cope with the normal stresses of life? The self-doubt gnawed at me, chipping away at my confidence, leaving me feeling lost and adrift. Desperate for answers, I turned to the internet, a vast and often treacherous ocean of information. I spent countless hours poring over medical journals, online forums, and support groups, searching for anyone who could relate to my symptoms. I tried every alternative therapy imaginable: acupuncture, chiropractic adjustments, herbal remedies, dietary restrictions, each one offering a fleeting glimmer of hope, only to be followed by crushing disappointment. My social life dwindled, my friendships faded. I became a recluse, afraid to venture out, terrified of the unpredictable nature of my illness. I canceled plans at the last minute, made excuses, pushed people away, fearing that they would grow tired of my constant complaints, my endless cycle of pain and exhaustion. The isolation was suffocating, a heavy blanket that smothered my spirit, leaving me feeling trapped and hopeless. Work became impossible. The creative spark that had once fueled my passion for design had been extinguished, replaced by a dull ache of apathy. I lost my job, my financial security, my sense of purpose. I was adrift, a ship without a sail, lost in a storm of illness and despair. But amidst the darkness, a tiny ember of hope remained. A voice deep within me whispered that I couldn't give up, that I had to keep fighting, not just for myself, but for my parents, for the life they had wanted me to live. I remembered their unwavering belief in me, their constant encouragement to never give up on my dreams. I owed it to them to keep searching for answers, to keep fighting for my health. And so I redoubled my efforts, delving deeper into the world of medical research, networking with other patients online, sharing information and experiences. I learned about autoimmune diseases, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and a host of other conditions that share similar symptoms to mine. I became my own advocate, questioning doctors, challenging their diagnoses, demanding further testing. Finally, after years of searching, I found a doctor who listened, who took my symptoms seriously, who was willing to think outside the box. She ordered a series of specialized tests, including genetic testing and advanced imaging, and the results were startling. I was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease that affected my nervous system and my connective tissues. It was a complex and poorly understood condition, but at least I finally had a name for my tormentor. The diagnosis was both a relief and a source of anxiety. Relief that I wasn't crazy, that my symptoms were real, that there was a biological explanation for my suffering. But anxiety because the disease was chronic, incurable, and potentially debilitating. There was no magic bullet, no quick fix. My life would be forever changed. The doctor prescribed a combination of medications, physical therapy, and lifestyle changes. It was a long and arduous process, but slowly, gradually, I began to see improvements. The pain lessened, the fatigue subsided, the headaches became less frequent. I started to reclaim my life, one small step at a time. I returned to my passion for design, working as a freelancer, setting my own hours, pacing myself, and listening to my body. I reconnected with old friends, forging deeper bonds, sharing my experiences, and receiving their unwavering support. I joined a support group for people with chronic illnesses, finding solace and understanding in the shared experiences of others. I learned to accept my limitations, to embrace my imperfections, to celebrate my small victories. I learned that health is not simply the absence of disease, but a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. I learned that true healing is not just about treating the symptoms, but about addressing the underlying causes, about nourishing the body, mind, and spirit. Standing there in the cemetery, 5 years after their passing, I realized that I had come a long way. I was still grieving, still struggling with my health, but I was also stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever. I had lost my parents, but I had also found myself. I had faced my demons, confronted my fears, and emerged from the darkness with a newfound sense of purpose. I placed the lily gently on their graves, whispering a silent prayer of gratitude. I thanked them for their love, their support, their unwavering belief in me. I promised them that I would continue to fight for my health, to live my life to the fullest, to honor their memory in everything I did. As I turned to leave, I noticed a small robin perched on a nearby branch, its bright red breast a splash of color against the muted landscape. It chirped cheerfully as if to say, "You've got this." I smiled, feeling a surge of hope wash over me. The journey was far from over, but I knew I wasn't alone. I had my parents' love to guide me, my friends' support to sustain me, and my own inner strength to carry me through. And that, I realized, was all I needed. The road to recovery continued, paved not just with medication and therapy, but with self-compassion, acceptance, and an unwavering commitment to living a full and meaningful life, despite the challenges I faced. The chronic illness became a part of my story, not the whole story, and I learned to navigate the complexities with grace and determination. It taught me the importance of self-care, the power of connection, and the resilience of the human spirit. It forced me to slow down, to appreciate the simple things in life, and to cherish every moment, knowing that life is precious and fleeting. The support group became my lifeline, a safe space where I could share my struggles, my fears, and my triumphs without judgment. We celebrated each other's milestones, offered words of encouragement during setbacks, and provided practical advice on how to manage our symptoms. I learned about new treatments, coping strategies, and resources that I wouldn't have discovered otherwise. The bonds I formed with these incredible individuals were stronger than any I had ever known. We were united by our shared experiences, our unwavering determination to live our best lives, despite the challenges we faced. One of the most valuable lessons I learned was the importance of advocating for myself. I realized that doctors are not always right, that they are human beings who make mistakes, and that it is my responsibility to question their diagnoses, to challenge their treatments, and to seek second opinions when necessary. I became a fierce advocate for my own health, educating myself about my condition, researching treatment options, and demanding the best possible care. It was empowering to take control of my health journey, to be an active participant in my own healing. I also discovered the power of mindfulness and meditation. These practices helped me to manage my pain, reduce my stress, and cultivate a sense of inner peace. I learned to quiet the negative voices in my head, to focus on the present moment, and to appreciate the beauty that still existed in my life, even amidst the suffering. Mindfulness and meditation became essential tools in my self-care arsenal, helping me to navigate the emotional and physical challenges of chronic illness. As I continued to heal, I felt a growing desire to share my story with others. I started a blog, documenting my experiences, sharing my insights, and offering hope to those who were struggling with similar challenges. I was amazed by the response. People from all over the world reached out to me, sharing their own stories, expressing their gratitude, and seeking advice. It was incredibly rewarding to know that my words were making a difference in the lives of others. My blog became a community, a place where people could connect, share, and support each other on their healing journeys. I also became an advocate for chronic illness awareness, speaking at conferences, participating in online campaigns, and raising funds for research. I wanted to help change the perception of chronic illness, to educate the public about the challenges faced by those who live with invisible diseases, and to advocate for better access to care and support. I felt a responsibility to use my voice to make a difference in the world, to create a more compassionate and understanding society for those who are suffering in silence. My health journey has been long and difficult, but it has also been incredibly transformative. It has taught me the importance of self-care, the power of connection, and the resilience of the human spirit. It has forced me to slow down, to appreciate the simple things in life, and to cherish every moment. I am still living with chronic illness, but I am no longer defined by it. I am a survivor, a warrior, a beacon of hope for others who are struggling with similar challenges. And I am grateful for every day that I am alive. I learned to appreciate the small victories, the moments of joy, the connections with loved ones. I focused on what I could control, such as my diet, my exercise, and my mental health, and I let go of what I couldn't. I surrounded myself with positive influences, people who believed in me, who supported me, and who lifted me up when I was feeling down. One of the most significant changes I made was to prioritize my mental health. I started seeing a therapist regularly, and she helped me to process my grief, to manage my anxiety, and to develop coping strategies for dealing with the challenges of chronic illness. Therapy was a safe space where I could be honest about my feelings, where I could explore my fears, and where I could learn to accept myself, flaws and all. It was an essential part of my healing journey. I also learned to practice self-compassion, to treat myself with the same kindness and understanding that I would offer to a friend who was going through a difficult time. I stopped beating myself up for not being able to do everything I used to do, and I started celebrating my small accomplishments. I realized that self-compassion is not selfish, but rather essential for survival. As I continued to heal, I felt a renewed sense of purpose in my life. I realized that I had been given a unique opportunity to use my experiences to help others. I decided to dedicate my life to advocating for chronic illness awareness, to supporting those who were struggling, and to inspiring hope in the face of adversity. I became a speaker, a writer, and a mentor, sharing my story with anyone who would listen. I found fulfillment in helping others to navigate their own health journeys, to find strength in their vulnerability, and to discover the power of their own resilience. My chronic illness became a catalyst for personal growth, a source of strength, and a pathway to purpose. It transformed me from a victim into a victor, from a sufferer into a survivor. And I am grateful for the lessons I have learned, the connections I have made, and the person I have become. I still have bad days, days when the pain is unbearable, when the fatigue is overwhelming, and when the despair threatens to consume me. But I have learned to ride the waves, to accept the ebb and flow of my illness, and to trust that the storm will eventually pass. I have learned to find joy in the small moments, to appreciate the beauty that still exists in the world, and to cherish the love of my family and friends. I have learned to live fully, despite my limitations, to embrace the present moment, and to create a life that is meaningful and fulfilling. And I know that my parents will be proud of me, proud of the woman I have become, proud of the strength I have shown, and proud of the hope I have inspired. And so, I continue on my journey one day at a time, one step at a time, always striving to heal, to grow, and to inspire. I am Elara, and this is my story. The journey to reclaim my health was not linear. There were setbacks, periods of remission followed by flare-ups, moments of profound discouragement, and times when I questioned whether I could continue. The medications had side effects, some of them debilitating and required constant adjustments. Physical therapy was painful and exhausting, pushing my body to its limits. The lifestyle changes were challenging, requiring me to give up many of the things I enjoyed. But I refused to give up. I reminded myself of my parents' unwavering belief in me, of the support I had received from my friends and family, and of the hope I had found in the online community. I focused on the small victories, the days when I felt a little better, the moments when I experienced a flicker of joy, and the connections I made with others who understood my struggles. I celebrated every milestone, no matter how small, and I allowed myself to grieve the losses along the way. I learned to be patient with myself, to forgive myself for my imperfections, and to trust that I was doing the best I could. I embraced the concept of radical acceptance, acknowledging that my illness was a part of my life, but it did not define me. I refused to let it steal my joy, my hope, or my purpose. I resolved to live fully, despite my limitations, to savor every moment, and to create a life that was meaningful and fulfilling. To this day, I continue to adapt, to learn, and to grow. I remain vigilant in my self-care, prioritizing my physical, mental, and emotional well-being. I continue to advocate for myself, to educate others about chronic illness, and to inspire hope in the face of adversity. And I continue to honor the memory of my parents by living a life that is worthy of their love and sacrifice. The pain may never completely disappear, the fatigue may always linger, and the uncertainty may always be present. But I have learned to live with these challenges, to find strength in my vulnerability, and to embrace the beauty that still exists in the world. I am Elara, and I am a survivor. I am a warrior. I am a beacon of hope, and I am grateful for every moment I have been given. Thank you, truly, for staying with me through this story. If you're walking a similar path of grief, of invisible illness, or just trying to hold on, I want you to know, you're not alone. Healing isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's the quiet strength of showing up for yourself, again and again. If this story touched you, helped you feel seen, or gave you hope, I invite you to subscribe, share it with someone who needs it, or leave a comment. Your words might just be the light someone else is searching for. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. And keep going.